All right, everybody, welcome back to the Nation Network in episode 3 of Inside the Creator Studio. I'm your host, Vince McSham. Joining me today in the studio, none other than Forsaken710. Thank you so much for taking some time to join us and let us pick your brain a little bit, man.
Perfect.
Let's talk about, this game's only, 2 months old now? About that?
Right.
You've been a busy boy.
My spend on it.
Yeah, I was going to say, you've been a busy boy. I'm going to run down just some, because if I ran down the whole list, that would be an hour. But we've got Chris Adonis, Triple H, old school. We got Blitzkrieg, which was a pretty cool-looking thing. The major players, which are my two favorites right now. Undertaker, old school style. We've got the Dark Order. We've got Colt Cabana, part of the Dark Order as well. Owen Hart, Nick Aldis, Canyon, Disco Inferno, Johnny B. Bad, Glacier, Shark Boy, Patriot, The Iron Sheik, Rick Rude, Bam Bam Bigelow. The list does go on. Is it safe to say that if they do the search for hashtag Forsaken710, they'll pretty much find whatever you've put up?
Absolutely.
All right, so there's your hashtag, guys. You want to check this stuff out because all of it is definitely top level. My first question I got for you, though, is I noticed a few characters there that I didn't recognize, and they're part of the AAW. What is that? Okay,
so it's actually a fun story. Chikara had a game in development, kind of a sequel to something already done on Xbox called Action Arcade Wrestling.
Oh.
So this that was coming to PS4 was under the Chikara brand. That came out, and it's a very simple game, but a lot of fun. If you haven't played it, 100%. I'll get into a little bit about the creation suite, but why I picked those guys to be on there. So Chikara was doing their thing, and me and another creator by the name of Big Al were knocking stuff out left and right. So the developer of the game actually asked me and Big Al, he said, hey, Chikara would like to have some guys created, and then we would go do like a kind of internet YouTube thing and like sim matches in the game, as well as have them on live wrestling TV. So we started knocking them out. We got about maybe 5 to 10 guys in, and then in the chat, the developer of the game found out that Chikara is closing their doors because of the Me Too or Speak Out movement. Sorry, and that kind of got put into like a tailspin, and then the developer reached out, and I reached out to him as well. And I asked if I could help recreate that roster, and he was pretty excited to have help. So me and Big Al knocked about 10 to 12 characters that became a part of the main roster, and then the game got relaunched in probably about 6 months only.
Wow.
And then really cool. So I do have a credit for creation on that game.
Excellent. Well, that makes, let's see, this is our third episode. First one was Dre41, who's working on the wrestling code.
Yeah.
So he's helping them out with that, very similar to what you just described. So my applause to both of you guys for that kind of stuff, because that is really cool for the community as well. Just to have, like you said, a game that was dead and buried, but all of a sudden resurrected.
Yeah. And I think it was, luck and passion for just creating. But the creation suite for Action Arcade Wrestling, it's like its own separate entity. Did you have a chance to ever play it?
I have not, but you got me all intrigued now.
Man, so the creation is PC only, but you can get a lot of primitives that you can play with and place wherever you want. And I created up the movesets are simple, but I created up to I think 300 creations for this, and this is from wrestling to Marvel to video games. The list goes on. I have I have the Grogu and the Mandalorian updated on there. Kirby.
Wow.
Spider-Man, and they're top notch too.
You're heavy into this stuff, I can tell.
Man, Count Chocula.
Count Chocula. Some of us will know exactly who that is. For those of you that don't, too bad.
Play Action Arcade.
There you go. Boo Berry and all that stuff. So, what do you have a background in art in general?
Absolutely not, actually. And even like I'm a maintenance technician as trade, so like really it's all just hobby, you know.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it all, and I caught a little bit of the Dre 41 interview, and you guys talked about the old paint tool days, and
Yes.
man, like, even that like opened up some memories for myself. Like another big one was Day of Reckoning.
Yep.
I think, I don't know if they were first with the paint tool or not, but I remember just spending hours, you know, just going to town and, you know, getting every little line correct. So I mean, that's kind of where it started, and then I got my hands on Photoshop, and
Yeah, it's so much easier, isn't it?
it just opened up a whole new world when you're able to like upload stuff. Even I can't remember. I dabbled in a little bit of the modding as well. Xbox made it kind of easy where you could. They developed programs that you could swap the images out, whether it be renders or the paint tool stuff, so you didn't have to paint it,
Mm-hmm.
and you can get stuff. I don't recall what years those were, but that was kind of like the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, that paint tool thing was never my strong suit. I messed with it a little bit, but I think he was mentioning the Brock Lesnar with the back tattoo. And when I remember that Brock Lesnar, and I remember saying, how the hell did they do this? And then I started going back to, you download it, you pick it apart, and you start to, and then I'm looking at the paint tool, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I'm not doing that.
Kids today realize, and sometimes I'll stroll down like memory lane and the Create Wrestler.ws or Smack Talks. That has a lot of the old posts with a lot of the old creators.
Yep.
And like go back to a time where you're like trying to get all the, you know, all the numbers down for the body morph, and then like where you're, you know, you need all the primitives on the face to recreate what they got. I mean,
It's work.
yeah, it really was.
And that's the whole thing about the creators society here. It's all people that truly do have a passion, like you were explaining. You've got to love wrestling. You got to love the gaming thing. There's not too many people that just pick it up that don't have a real passion for professional wrestling and start creating stuff the way you guys do.
Right.
You'd have to be like a sick artist or something like that just wants to go in there and mess around with it.
My and several of my friends are actually they're like, do you ever play the game? And I'm like, absolutely not.
And you're the third person that said that. That's amazing to me. But again, the creation takes so much time.
Yeah.
That I can see.
I'm definitely guilty of like, I'll get something done, I'll play 2 matches, and then I'm on to the next.
Yeah.
I felt complete.
I mean, I've spent most of my time this year putting rosters together, because every time, same thing. I would download one that looked pretty good, and all of a sudden, here's something that comes out by one of you guys, and it's like, okay, that's much better than what I had, so I got to kick that one out, bring in the new one, get rid of all the old logos, because I got to free up those slots, because, man, those go fast.
I'll be honest, I haven't done a lot of, like, I've done very little downloading of other creators, because I've been waiting just to be kind of personally done, and then I'd get my stuff, but now I've kind of backed myself into a corner where I have like 10 slots open, and I probably only have like creation slots.
Yeah.
Then I have like 10. So my next couple ones are going to have to be simple or alternative tires.
That was a good thing. When I was doing my stuff a lot, it was always guys from the 80s and 90s, and most of them just wore a set of trunks, you know, maybe had a logo on the trunk. But now you've got these like 20 images on tights that you got to put together, and mask designs and all this other stuff that is just insane. Taking up, I just got a hold of Serena Deeb, and again, really quality work. That was by Tony, and it was 18 slots though.
Right.
And he warned us up front. You want it? I'm just letting you know, he said, and then he didn't lie. But it almost is what it takes to really recreate somebody and do justice to them and their attire and the look and the feel. They got to do better than 1,000 slots in the future, man. This is just getting old.
I couldn't. I know. I think I've seen one Ruby Soho out there. I couldn't even imagine how many.
And that's the thing. Yeah, it's certain wrestlers, when you see them, it's like I don't have the Death Triangle, because Come on, man. It's like Ray alone is probably 22 with the tattoos and stuff. The creators are getting smarter, though. I'm seeing a lot more people, especially with tattoo art, finding a way to position them all on one frame and put maybe 3 or 4 instead of one at a time. So they're doing what they can do as well. But as you start stretching those things out, they blur and they kind of melt away and things like that.
Yeah, I noticed. And I'm not sure if the other creators have had this problem. Like with this game, I feel like when you do like they have the wrap function for the textures, like along the body they get really distorted and they don't lay right, they don't look right in certain areas, shoulders, chests. Like just do a t-shirt now. It seems like you got to put it on the right body, otherwise it's gonna look funky.
Yep, it bends in weird positions and stuff like that. So. Out of all the games, creation studio-wise, which is your favorite?
I'm gonna have to say 19 at the moment because that was, it was almost perfect. I mean, Ukes. I mean, I think they were making wrestling games since '95, so they really knew, And then 20 was just a disaster.
Oh, you didn't like 20?
I don't know.
Hey, you're the only person that's ever told me that.
I think I created 3 people.
Well, that's at least 2 more than most people.
I think that's all I could get to go through.
Yeah.
And I was like, yep, I'm done.
A buddy of mine, you may have heard of him, Tongue List. He was creating back in 19 a lot. And he didn't do hardly anything at 20. He got so frustrated so fast.
I mean, I was just running back and forth from the computer, and then I would come and look, and I'm like, "Oh, try again." And then I would attempt to put like 50 images of the same thing through, just to hopefully get one.
Oh yeah, that was constant.
It's funny because 19 had that problem, but it was only like a week, and they cleared it up, and you never saw it again.
That's the biggest thing with 2K. You would think, okay, this was a problem for us. We fixed it. It won't happen again. But then it does.
Yeah. And then, I mean, I believe it was probably that whole transition of teams, right? I mean, they cleared out all the Ukes guys and then picked up all the 2K guys, and it was not a smooth transition.
You think? That was one of the things Dre, I guess, talked to some of these guys, and somebody was mentioning to him. It says, imagine this. You know your house. You know where everything is. You know where the forks are, the knives are, the cups are. You know where everything is. You walk out to me and say, okay, now this is your house. I'm leaving. And throw me in your house. Do I know where the cups are? Do I know where the fork? And that's kind of the way he described it, which, all right, that makes sense. But that was how many years ago?
Yeah. Yeah, it still feels like they're cleaning up the pieces.
They still don't know where the cups are. And now it's theirs. You took 2 years off, guys. What the heck?
It's little stuff that can bother me too. I don't know if you got a chance. I uploaded Chris Adonis.
Yeah, I just looked at that.
Yeah, and I just put him up, and I'm playing with him, and I kind of take a second, and I'm like, So a knee pad where it's kind of got like a split in the middle.
Yep.
There's no. It just goes right through, and I'm like, uh-oh. So when I tried another knee pad and the same thing, so I don't know if I just missed it up until this point, but
I don't know if you've also noticed on trunks, and I think it so far is only trunks. I'm not sure about shirts. It might be shirts too. Definitely on trunks. A lot of times if you use the letters option and just like put, let's say, Bobby Roode, and you just put Rude and put it on the back, it bleeds through to the front, but in mirror image.
Oh, I did not see that yet.
Yeah, it's more of a indentation. You won't see the color of the lettering per se, and it doesn't even matter whether or not you put that feature into the letter. Like you could just put it on as a flat letter. It still comes through the opposite side. Kind of like back in 20 when you would color the right side of the hair, but it would also go to the left side as well.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's something else to look for that hasn't been touched since they've uploaded the game.
I haven't used a lot of in-game letters. I think the first time I actually did it was on one of my 90s Triple H's. And the one, oh yeah, and a little bit on Iron Cheek. But that was another thing that I noticed was gone, was that you can't like change direction of the lettering anymore. I want to say 19, you could drop it down.
Oh, well, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, unless you're going to do one letter at a time, which that's a pain in the butt. And even then, there's a limit.
Yeah, luckily it was 4 letters per sheet only.
Yeah, that's why most people will just end up doing it, like you said, on Photoshop and importing it. I'll say the import thing was not an issue this year for me at all.
No, I can't say. I can't say it was anything like 20. It's been pretty solid. There's times where like the website gets kind of funky, but even then, that was really early on.
Yeah, I would say for the most part. And a lot of people are having trouble, I guess, getting into community creations and downloading work early on, but I've never really had a problem with that. Once in a blue moon, it'll glitch up as usual, but it's rare. I can usually download whatever I need when I need. Have you had any problems with that?
No.
Okay.
No, I have. One thing, it's, I don't know if anyone else has this problem. It's a very strange problem. So like the list of your uploads, your sizes, the last ones, your custom renders.
Yeah.
No matter what I do on the computer, I can't get down to it. Like this, there's like a copyright thing that kind of comes up and it stays there for long periods of time. Sometimes it goes away and then I'm able to upload renders from my PC. Otherwise, I have to put it in my email and then open the browser on my phone and upload it that way.
Wow. Yeah.
Now that I'm thinking about it, so if I put renders up and then I upload renders, like when it goes to my selection of renders, I have like 3 of them. When I just uploaded 20, that was one that I'm thinking about it, that I've encountered lately.
So it'll show me that, as you're saying, like if I upload multiple ones, it'll maybe only show one of them, but then if I go into the game, they're all there.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so yeah, I don't know. It's 2K. As long as the stuff gets into the game, I call that a win.
Oh, a lot of my stuff, I've been putting up on Twitter. I opened like a DeviantArt account, and then I've been putting videos that I make there for my guys, just because I can't upload them correctly. I think that big Chris Speartoe, he's like the render guy.
The render guy.
Yeah, he does some pretty good stuff. I don't know how he gets them all to work. He's got some magical render powers.
So I didn't use too much of the character renders for the match screen because it's taken away slots for images, and I'd much rather just have really good wrestlers and rosters than worry about a warm-up screen that I don't even look at half the time.
That's true. I'll probably end up doing the same. After several times of resizing, I'm going to give it up altogether.
Because I thought about it. That's 100 slots out of 1,000. I'm not giving up. That's 10%.
Yeah. Another thing, hopefully, I can wish as much as I want, but hopefully they give us like another 500 slots. But
I haven't been saying that for 2 years, brother.
Yeah. I think they have limits of what they can use for like space. So.
But you would think it would be based on the system. I mean, the console can definitely go more.
Sure. I mean, I can't see why it couldn't be to the point like I could download as much as I want and then delete whatever I want.
Yeah. Imagine if they came up with a game like that. Oh,
yeah, I'm missing out, because I have maybe 4 custom arenas downloaded because all my parts go to characters.
And that's the thing, too. Belts take away slots. Arenas take away slots. And, of course, you want all these things. So what are you going to do? You got to pick your poison at that point in time. How long have you...
started dabbling in Titantrons as well. I think I made like mocked up like a Cody Rhodes one. And that was kind of neat. But once again, you got to dedicate that one logo probably at least to each Titantron.
Yep. So how long have you actually been creating in the 2K... Well, in the WWE universe here?
In the since the dawn of the Creation Suite, I think I was probably 11 or 12 when Warzone hit shell.
Yeah, you're like me. You're original.
Yeah, I made Andre the Giant and I made Turok and anybody else I could at the time. And then I remember being blown away at Attitude's creation. It was leaps even above what they had the game before. And we just got better and better and better and better.
What would you say is the most positive change in the 2K22 suite versus 19, for example? And what would you say is the thing they've taken from it that has hurt the most? Because they've given us some extra stuff this year, but they've also taken some stuff away.
I don't think I've really anything like notable for me, like the big, like just that, being able to wrap the letters in a different direction. I know I haven't really, because I guess in 1920 I kind of have I've been making the same wrestlers for several years and tweaking as I go, and I've normally just been able to do what I have to do, so I haven't noticed anything major, whether it be an addition or subtraction. Let's say like this year I got a lot more modern guys, so some of the hairstyles and stuff definitely helped for that.
Yeah, and they've been adding those hairstyles recently too, which is long overdue. That I could never understand why you would have an in-game model with a hairstyle that you don't have in the creation suite, but at least they're finally listening and giving some of that stuff back.
The one thing that I could wish for is like the Ultimate Dragon shoulder harness. Like, for God's sake, I would love one without a cape. I need to write a letter begging for that to be a possibility.
Well, there's a lot of stuff that people have been asking for, and hopefully they start to listen. When I heard the recap of Stephanie's conference call with the owners of stocks and bonds and all that good stuff with the WWE and how the game has been critically acclaimed, and I'm like, no, it's been financially successful. I'll agree with you that part, but I don't know which critics you want to talk. I know you're picking those magazines that you probably bought and paid for to give you this great review, or they're people that only played the just base game and haven't tried creating a damn thing, didn't try universe mode. But those of us that really buy this game are not critically acclaiming it.
If you had to review 20 and then 22, it'd be...
When the bar is set that low, brother, I think I could have crossed that one.
I think 2K20, you could maybe get through the menu. Maybe.
Sometimes. And as broken as it was, you got to admit, it was funny as hell. I mean, you go into the creation suite and eyeballs are drooping down and teeth are floating around. It's like, what other game? Their 12-year-old kids right now are still in therapy right now. Oh my Lord! What an unmitigated disaster that really was.
I mean, I couldn't believe it. And then I think I go all out for the WWE games. I shelled out the $90, I think it was, for that one.
Yeah.
And I was like, great.
What was the bonus content? 19 was the one with the Ric Flair thing, right? Where you got the ring, and I think that was 19. Or was it 18? I'm getting older.
Yeah, I mean, they start blending together. You don't think about it. You see like some old school posts with people putting them up next to each other. Like, oh yeah. Or it gets announced that it's coming off the store.
I'll say one thing, that 2K folks, they're not stupid, okay? Many things, but not stupid, because they realized that this still wasn't right, it wasn't ready, and they know after last time out that people are waiting to hear people's reviews. So they said, okay, what are we going to do to make sure people aren't like returning this game like last time? Well, we'll give them the NWO, but only digital, because nobody gets refunds on digital.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't put that together.
Oh, hell yeah, man. Because the first thing, after about a month in, when I was really starting to see the issues, because all I do is universe mode, I could care less about my faction. I'm not giving you any more money.
In 19, I lived in the universe mode, so
yeah.
Rain on that. You'll have to let me know how that's going. I haven't had a chance. I've been hammering out the roster.
Yeah, me too. And then they deleted it on me when the game crashed on me one time. It took it all.
See, I noticed. I've been here a lot of my GM, and I did go through a couple year and a half in my GM time, and I'll get some that go just fine. But then if I hit like any kind of speed bump in the process, like that year is done, I have to delete it and start it again.
Snap. God.
Because I'll close on the game, reload it, and it's like, nah, it ain't happening.
Yeah, I did like 2 weeks of it, and I was like, I don't understand why people are begging for this. I just don't. I've never understood my GM mode being a popular thing. I've tried it in the past. I tried this one. There's no excitement in it for me whatsoever.
I had a lot of fun with this one. I feel like if they could merge like this with Universe, that could be a lot of fun. Where you got in with your budgets and stuff like that. But now just talking to you now, it's kind of funny in my head that like, what if the game crashing and not letting you back in is like your future endeavors? You're not allowed back building.
That's it. I got future endeavor. That's what happened. Well, I learned from that mistake because now I back it up at least once or twice a week, so that even if it crashes, I'll have a save file that I can go back to, because that was 20 hours of work gone.
Yeah, and it takes that. I mean, I can take the wind out of your sails easily about the whole game.
It did. The thing that saved me, because I really was about done, because then as I went back in, I said, well, the good news is I didn't create very much. So all I have to do is re-download everything. Well, as I was starting to re-download, it was like, well, you can't download this content until you complete the Rey Mysterio. But I'm like, first off, I did it once just to unlock the stuff that I should have had already because I paid $120 for the game, okay? I am not playing through that 2-hour mess again. I didn't like it the first time. Fortunately, I did have a thumb drive saved, apparently right after I completed Rey. So that unlocked all that stuff back again, and I was back in business. But I spent a week and a half just downloading a roster again, putting it together again.
I transitioned from a PS4 to a PS5, so I think I maybe had about 8 or 10 guys out. So I decided to port them back over to 5. But now it leaves me with sometimes like I'll with everything I create, a day or two later, I'll see something I don't like. I want to update it. Now all those guys back on PS4 are pretty much on their own, Like Bam Bam, for instance. People were mad that I made him really heavy. And I wish I had any control over that. Like, the body weights, excuse me, just didn't feel like Bam Bam,
Yeah, it's one of the things, like when I was talking earlier about what you give and what you lose in this creation suite, that's one of the biggest.
That would be the biggest.
Yeah, because you used to be able to break it down, like the chest by itself, the midsection by itself, the rear end, the legs, and now it's just like, well, which of these 6 do you like? Well, come on, man.
And for me, I mean, I went through quite a bit of a learning curve. My Muhammad Hassan, off the top of my head, is super jacked because I just didn't like, you see him in Creation Suite and he looks fine. Then he goes out and wrestles one of those game rosters and he's the size of Hulk Hogan. I'm like,
Yeah, there was that moment where everything looks perfectly fine. You got the heights right, you got the weights right, and then you put him in there, and it's like, well, then why is he taller than this guy? And you got to go back and readjust it all.
I'm having a lot of interesting stuff with heights. Like, I feel like they are not calculated correctly.
No,
I've been trying to kind of keep my guys like a little bit shorter than what they say they are in real life, so they kind of measure up a little bit. But like, you make like the Undertaker, you put him at 6'10", and he's just towering over the ring,
towering over Andre.
yeah.
There's the match that we should have had. So talking about wrestling for a minute and getting away from the game,
Sure.
Your earliest memory of professional wrestling would be what?
Shawn Michaels losing his smile.
Wow. Interesting.
So, here's the funny thing about me. I didn't grow up in like a sports household by any means. My dad was a big comic book nerd, made me a big comic book nerd. It wasn't until I was like 12 that a friend of mine was into wrestling, and then I kind of dove head first. And interesting thing about wrestling fans is like, I don't feel like there's a lot of casual wrestling fans. It's like you're either wrestling, you're not a wrestling fan, or you're just the most diehard wrestling fan there ever was. And that's kind of, maybe that's more like maybe around the 90s, WCW, NWO in Monday Night Worst times, because at that point I fell in love, with everything, and I had to go back and I had to learn everything, So there was a video store down the street, and I had to go back, buy all the old 80s and 90s stuff, and I had to learn my history. Had a lot to catch up on.
Man, that is such an exact same story as mine, although my history goes a little further back. I've got a few years on you, I think. But it was the same thing. When I moved to Florida after, graduating high school in New York, that was like in the mid-'80s. And I had heard of these guys in wrestling magazines, stuff like that. Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, Ronnie Garvin. Never saw them because New York was all WWF. That's all you had. There was no national cable yet. And I come down here and I'm seeing, Flair and Dusty and Gordon Soley, and I'm like, holy cow. And I was just loving this version of wrestling so much better than the cartoon world of Hulkamania and all that stuff, which is all I had up to that point.
Yeah.
And same as you, I remember going to a Walmart and they had old VHS tapes of Eduardo Carpentier and just going back to the Lou Thez, the black and white TV episodes. And I bought that and started watching that even. So, yeah, very similar. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then, I've always been kind of like attracted to like the darker themed characters, if you haven't noticed from my stuff I upload.
Yeah, well, so what Paul Heyman say? Do you like the good guys or do you like the bad guys? Because I don't like the good guys.
So, Undertaker was my number one.
Yeah.
And then he became like an Undertaker, like history buff. And it was over after that. I got in there right when the NWO was starting up.
Good time to get in.
And like Psycho Sid and his presence, like I watched back then and I was like in love. And then I watched like Sid's promos now and I'm like, this wasn't that good.
A lot of people give a bad rap to Lex Luger, which I could never understand because I saw him from day one. He started here in Florida, Central Florida. And yeah, he's green as crap back then. I get it. But even then, there was something there. And then he comes into the NWA, and then he joins the Horsemen. And he gets knocked on his promos all the time. And I just watched him one the other day again. And I'm like, it's still good. I don't get it. What did they want from him?
I don't remember his promos being bad specifically.
They weren't.
Yeah, I think he got by. Like Sid, though, he's asking to get him live on TV. It's like, ooh.
But even Sid, I mean, all right, so he's the monster, and he does a lot of the screaming and shouting that is wrestling. But Luger did a lot of that, too. And he definitely learned from Flair. There's no two ways about it. You could see his cadence. You could see his style, the way he let the segments of a sentence out the way he did. But that's not a bad guy to learn from.
Oh, no. If anyone perfected it, it's definitely Flair.
Yeah. So, I can't figure out. But some people just look at, like you said, some guys will say Sid really wasn't all that. Sid was a monster. He could get things done that a big guy shouldn't get done.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, he didn't need that promo, but
no. And the only thing I would say he should probably do is not go on the second rope and jump off or anything like that. But
I just recently saw something. I think it was an old spot that the Horsemen used to do, and then they convinced Sid to do it, and I was like, imagine taking that back. Like, ooh.
Wouldn't you want to be a fly in the locker room to hear that conversation? This is what we're thinking we're going to do. And I'd be like, you keep thinking, but I ain't doing it. Oh, my gosh. So far as wrestling games in general, we talk about 2K22 a lot, obviously, because that's the hot number right now. But out of all the games you've ever played, what's your number one favorite go-to game that you could just pick up and start playing for an hour?
I probably sound just like the rest of the world, but I mean, No Mercy is hard to touch.
Yep, that's a big popular one, which now with AEW's game being sort of based on that a little bit with the Akai engine and Kenny Omega's love for No Mercy, made it clear that he wants to kind of replicate that, and even some of the early footage that's come out kind of has that vibe.
I mean, I might have been on the fence but up until like just before 2K20 came out, I actually revisited No Mercy on the PC, and I like hammered out some mods. You can catch them on my YouTube if you're interested.
Yeah, absolutely.
I did a conversion for most of the Revenge roster to be playable in No Mercy, and then I did a pack for the AAW guys to be playable in No Mercy. So, I mean, I spent probably 6 months on that, and I just, it was like a kid again. Imagine having what's seen as almost the greatest wrestling game, and then now being able to add your own custom roster to it with technology these days is just a lot of fun.
Yep, and that's the thing about the main reason why I even do this particular program right here is because you get so much life out of this game. How many games do people buy that after a month they don't touch them again? This game, the minute it gets boring, delete your roster and bring in a whole new roster. You have a whole new promotion, and you're starting back, and it's all fresh, and it's exciting again, and it's fun again, and that's where this community creation goes on. It's like when you have all these people that are so talented and able to make the content that you guys make, it just keeps this game's lifespan going. I mean, look at 2K19. It's still a great game.
People are going to mourn the servers when they go down.
Yeah, June 30th. It's coming around a little quicker than we think, but that's what I've been doing. I've been kind of edging out my AEW roster and just stocking it up with Impact, figuring that's what I'm going to go on the last run with over on 19. I'm just going to go all out with Impact and get it as up to date as I possibly can before the 30th, because like I said, it's just this game. I don't like the way this game plays because, as somebody had pointed out to me, and I didn't catch it at first, damn near every move starts with a collar and elbow.
Yeah.
If it's not a strike or a kick, it has to be a collar and elbow to start it. That's not. It looks weird.
It does. It's not a deal breaker for me. That does kind of throw you back to No Mercy. I mean, they kind of did the same deal.
Was that a collar and elbow necessary in that too?
Yeah, every time.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't realize that.
So that I can get through. I'm having a really hard time, like, accepting this combo system.
Yeah.
I mean, it's okay, but like, just the way they have the wrestlers stand too is in like a fighting game kind of stance.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't feel like a good wrestling sim when you got these combos, because in wrestling it's not like that. It could be a combo, but usually it's a one-off. It's not, I'm going to hit you with 9 different combos.
Yeah, and then come up with a drop kick at the end.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to get a drop kick in nowadays.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be cooler if maybe they, and I think the older, maybe not 2K games, but the other Ukes games had kind of where your opening couple moves would be the lockup, and your tackles, your drop kicks. It was actually like opening spots like a real match would have. And that was awesome. Or I remember when they did like the test of strengths and stuff like that.
Yep.
That was really cool stuff. And I think I'm definitely missing that now.
Yeah, that was a staple of guys like Jesse Ventura, Ivan Putski back in the olden days. Chris Masters.
Yeah.
That's one of his gimmicks too, as well. Power. When you're all beefed up like that, that's how you showed it off.
Definitely.
So yeah, good point. 2K19, when you go into sim mode, it feels like a good wrestling match, and a lot of times you get a good wrestling match out of sim mode. I've had maybe 1 or 2 in 2K22 that I thought were good.
That was another thing. I think 19 had the squash matches. With
yes.
Man, it's fun. I haven't seen one. I'll be honest, in 2K22, I don't even know how to attack the referee if I wanted to.
Yeah, well, that I find easier, to be honest with you, in 2K22, because they have the targeting system where you just press the button and it'll lock on the referee, so you're not going to miss him. But overall,
a trick in 19, I would throw the guy in the corner, and then I'd just run at the referee and just give it to him.
I mean, now you can actually grab. The only thing you can't really do, appears anyway to me, is that you can't hit him with a finisher. So if you have a stored finisher or something, you can't hit him with that. But you want to power bomb him through a table, you can go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I gotta see. That's how much I play. I'm always creating. I don't even know what button to do that yet.
But yeah, like I said, if you go to sim mode though, they'll get pinfalls after throwing a right hand to the forehead.
Yes.
And it's just like, no, man, at least let it be a finisher or even a special, but not just a clothesline, and not even a good one at that.
Yeah, big gust of wind.
Yeah.
Over 1, 2.
That's pretty much the way it feels. So a lot of those, it's like every time I stream, and I try to sim because people presume that if you're playing the game, well, you're going to win, of course. And
Sure.
there are times where I have to play because I need a certain outcome. But a lot of times when I'm playing as the one who's going to do the job, just to make sure the job gets done.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing wonky goes on. But even then, that doesn't always turn out according to plan. And that's why it's called live, ladies and gentlemen. Anything can happen.
Yeah, I do that quite a bit too. I'll throw a random 4-person elimination because I feel like, man, fatal 4-ways or even like Money in the Banks. If you just let those go,
Yeah,
you might as well keep your TV on all night and check back in the morning. I hope there's something they can do for the AI for that someday. But yeah, it is, it's fun to sit there and watch. I remember in my younger days taking bets. We'll like put up a rumble, pick 5 guys and be like, maybe put $1 in, $5 in, then you win the pot if your guys comes through.
nice.
That can be a lot.
Never even thought about that, but that would definitely put another twist on things. Since we're talking about making matches, stuff like that, we'll put you in universe mode right now. So you're going to book the main event for tonight's match. Anyone you want. Who is it?
Let's do Matt Cardona. I'm really big on him right
Me
now.
too. Me too. And he didn't make it here for Impact tapings. Chelsea was here for night 1, but he and Brian, I guess, were committed other places.
Brian had a show here last night, and it airs in Oshkosh. I'm from Wisconsin. I don't know if we mentioned it. Yeah, he had a show here last night. I didn't know about it until this morning. I was like, oh, they had Karen Cross and Scarlett on it and a few others.
Nice.
Well, and like, I don't know, someone wasn't promoting right.
That's what I said about Impact, because I actually work at the place where they held the card. And night 1, I mean, they only had set up for about 500 seats max. And I'm thinking to myself, if you guys would promote the damn thing, I'm pretty sure, this is Central Florida, there's a lot of wrestling fans here.
Yeah.
And if you promote it, I think you'll get a few more in the door. But the only thing I ever saw outside of our building itself, but you'd have to be at our building to see the posters, it was on TV. And nowadays, damn near everybody, like you said, we used to sit there and watch it from start to finish. Nobody does that anymore. Right. And you DVR it at best, and then you fast forward through a lot of stuff that you don't necessarily want to see. So when you're only running one spot saying, hey, Impact tapings this Saturday, and that's it, and it lasted about 30 seconds, somebody probably just fast forwarded right through it and never even saw the message.
Yeah, but even like, you could, there's got to be algorithms and stuff on Facebook, you know what I mean? Their ads and stuff, like, or just other wrestling fans. I mean, how do you not?
Yeah, I didn't get any, though. That's my whole thing. And I'm big into this stuff, and I'm telling you, other than being at work, I didn't see anything.
Yeah.
So
and it's hard. It's hard to understand at this point, where, the phones are listening to you and stuff.
Sure do. All right, so we got Matt Cardona as half our main event. Who's he going to go up against?
Let's do. You got Nick Aldis on there?
Anyone you want, man. Nick Aldis. So that's your main event.
One of my favorite main events lately.
Yeah. I was liking Nick Aldis a lot in the NWA with the title run. COVID, I really feel impacted, no pun intended, NWA the worst. I think they really just struggled the most to come back from it.
Yeah, well, and they kind of took that step where I think their shows were free, and then they went to that free TV.
That was a bad move. I went with them. I paid the money.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel like the product was as good. Right before, literally when COVID hit, they were just getting ready to do the Crockett Cup. already paid for the pay-per-view, and then like a week before they had to cancel it. And they just never regained that steam, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, they were definitely on their way. And I mean, I think wrestling itself took kind of a hit with COVID.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was definitely a different time where you're watching with WWE at the Performance Center with all the screens. Like, you don't really miss the crowd until it's gone. And then you're like, you can definitely tell a difference. But yeah, I mean, now that we're all back, I don't think NWA has quite the same roster either.
No.
They kind of come in and out. But, I do like a lot of the guys that they got, and I hope they stay up there. Billy Corgan does his thing.
Yeah, no, I wish them nothing but well, and I think they will come back around in time. The roster is the biggest thing. I mean, because think about it, they had Ricky Starks before COVID. Ricky Starks, I was saying it back then, as this guy, keep an eye on him, he's got potential. Then he goes into the AEW, then you worry about these guys taking ridiculous risks over there. He's already had a couple of good injuries, and he's young. So, you don't want to see something happen that cuts your career down from 12, 15 years down to 3, which is my only knock right now.
I can't believe Darby Allin's still alive at this point, that spot he had with Jeff Hardy.
Yeah, I both of them. I mean, Jeff didn't exactly catch that beautifully either. It was just he took a hell of a whop, and it's not like his body needs that crap anymore.
Yeah, and the only thing I could think of was like, it's not even a pay-per-view.
Right?
But my buddy pointed out to me they only do a couple pay-per-views a year, so you're putting all your good stuff right on TV,
Yeah, that I couldn't believe it, man. When I saw, is he not really going to go through with this? Is he? And then he did.
A lot of scary stuff. That's another thing. AEW's kind of, I'm not sure if, what their contracts there allow them to do. I'm not sure if they got a good working deal with NWA or not, where they can use some of their guys.
NWA doesn't, for a little bit there, they were working with Impact, obviously Ring of Honor, but then now we know why they were working with Ring of Honor, because they're ready to buy them. Impact and NWA seem like they've been working a little bit more hand in hand right now. Billy Corgan, and it's easy to say, hey, you got this big open door policy when you have a weaker roster, so why wouldn't you, of course? I still wait to see what happens with Camille.
Yeah.
She's definitely moving up. She's getting stronger in her in-ring as well as her promo skills. And I keep thinking she's going to show up in Impact any day. I don't see her going to AEW, but I would imagine her being an Impact.
With Wrestling Talk, what do you feel about the Sasha Banks and Naomi?
Somebody done make a big mistake there, thanks. It's real simple. Look, I can understand that you feel disrespected, that you and Naomi put together the tag team title run that you've got. You're both recognized names in the ladies' locker room there. I get all that. At the end of the day, that's like somebody, I mean, they don't really have too much daytime TV left anymore, but my mom has watched, and it's still on to this day, apparently, Days of Our Lives. And when they walk up to the actor and say, okay, in this scene, you're going to slap so-and-so in the face and you're going to walk out. You don't turn around and say, no, I don't want to slap him. You're going to slap him, you're going to walk your ass out the door. That's the way this is going to work.
I mean, it's your job.
Yeah, it's like, if you didn't hear about this thing that happened in Montreal a couple years back, okay, and if he'll do it to Brett, trust me, he'll do it to you. And I guess they probably did think that way and said, well, here's the belts then, because this is what you're going to do to me.
Yeah.
But damn it, you're getting a paycheck.
I'm not sure how long they had on their contracts, but I mean, it seems like it's happening more and more. These guys are just...
They're not happy with creative, but neither are the fans, and they don't listen to us for shit, so maybe they'll listen to them. I don't know. It seems that Naomi's contract is very close to the end.
Oh.
Yeah, so this might be a bad move for her.
But, AEW will pick her up, but then, how long?
Yeah.
How much TV time you going to get?
See, that's the big thing right there. If you're a CM Punk, the not getting a lot of TV time isn't as big a deal because you're an older guy. You don't want to be bumping all the time.
Right.
But when you are somebody who's in their prime, you want to get the reps in, you want to get out there on camera, you're used to it. You're in the WWE, you're there every week, sometimes twice. And that's your spotlight, and they'll all tell you, every wrestler I've ever spoken to will always tell you the same thing, and that is that they live off the rush of the audience, coming through the curtain, getting whether it's a baby face or a heel pop, whatever you're getting, it's that reaction, and it's a drug, and they're addicted to it. So imagine all of a sudden, I forget who the comedian was, he was talking about the drug sniffing dogs at the airport. Imagine being the owner of that dog, and you have to tell them we're off today. What do you mean we're off? No, let's go to work. You're taking their drugs away from them.
Yeah, you're always reaching for that moment. That's why you do it. I actually, fun trivia, back in my younger years, I trained out at Milwaukee, and I worked probably for like a year or two as a jobber.
Hey, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't regret it whatsoever. Not having like the biggest physique, I was kind of pushed towards like, the hardcore stuff, which wasn't bad. We got the better reactions. I got a couple main events, but
there you go.
I got to share locker rooms, man, with Seth Rollins now, but at the time he was Tyler Black. Swoggle came from up here, Ken Anderson. It was cool.
Yeah, I saw that's right. You had a Ken Anderson in that creations list too.
Yes.
Yep.
Definitely this year, I've been really trying to focus on my morphing the face. I feel like it's taken me a long way, and like from my past, I feel like I really hammered out the morphs. Ken Anderson was a tough one. I'm not thrilled about his face because it was hard finding a good reference. So I actually went with one of the older game textures and then relied on just morph.
Well, I'm going to give you a cheat that I learned from this guy Tongue List I was mentioning earlier, because he would do a lot of guys from the 80s, early 80s, even 70s sometimes. And I'm like, where are you finding these face textures? He said, I just watch videos and wait for them to have an interview, and then I do a screen capture. His studio lighting was perfect. It was all around. You had very little glare, and he'll just do a still shot of a close-up during an interview.
I'll have to try that one. I do that a lot with some of the guys that I can't get their gear nailed. I spent a couple hours going through Chris Adonis matches and just trying to get that right angle to where I can manipulate it, make it look solid.
Yep. And that's always one of the things that I've wondered about, because you and Dre, for example, both have done Matt Cardona, and you both have the most clean images on the tights and on the knee pads and all that stuff. And I'm like, you can't get that off a TV screen.
So, actually, and I hope he keeps doing this, the guy that I think makes Cardona's gear, like, puts a mock-up on Twitter with, like, high-res logos and...
Oh.
Like,
well, that explains it.
Really nice, yeah. That's why I got that. I don't think most people know this, but, like, my first Matt, his alternate's like a diesel attire.
Mm-hmm.
Even, like, down to the tassels on the side, I was able to use, like, Ultimate Warrior tights and kind of simulate that. So that was pretty cool how it worked out for me. But, yeah, I mean, I kind of wish every wrestler would do that.
Right? And your tattoos while you're at it, by the way.
Oh, God. I'll be honest. Dre did Danhausen.
Yeah.
I actually really do one, and I started one, and I had him just, kind of there, and I'm like, oh, no. I'm like, I'm not even in that universe close to the quality that he had for the tattoo. So I was like, I'm like, well, I'm gonna go download Dre's.
Yep, I'm same boat, man, same boat. So now we're talking about the stuff that we've created over the years here. So I'm gonna hit you with one of my favorite questions. Out of all of your creations that you have access to today, especially with games that are no longer existing so far as community creations where you can re-download it, the bad news is there's some sort of a virus that goes through your system and all of your creations are wiped out except for one, and you get to determine which one. Which one do you save out of everything you've created?
We talking like on 2K22?
Anything.
Anything.
Because they're all going away. Everything you've ever created is going away except for one.
I would say I did a Mortis on Fire Pro Wrestling World.
Fire Pro Wrestling World. There you go.
I got my hands in everything.
Yeah, well, when I was mentioning earlier about the fact that we should have more than 1,000 slots available because it's based on the size of the system, really, and that's why I don't get it, because Fire Pro, you can put as much roster together as you want.
Right.
Granted, they're not as detailed, but...
Yeah, but, man, my only complaint about Fire Pro is, like, the lack of match types. So, like,
yeah.
I guess more based in Japan, so I don't think they have as many gimmick matches as we do. Well, I mean, they do, but it's all like the bloody stuff.
Exploding rings.
Yeah, I'd like to see a little bit more like the ladder matches and stuff like that. That'd be really cool. But as a game, it was solid, because what I felt maybe might have shot them in the foot. So they released the game, and then they kind of like had all like the creation stuff follow like way later. So I don't think, like, your initial rush of people buying it didn't get to really enjoy that stuff until later, and it's still got quite a life now. There's a couple creators out there that still just knock it out of the park. But I mean, you didn't have it up front, so
right.
On other games, so I was very much late too. I bought it initially, and then you can create the same guys you made on the Fire Pros that for Game Boy Advanced or whatever, and then they add the paint tool and they add the move tool, and it's like now it can last forever.
And that's what it's all about at the end of the day. So you're saving Mortis, which now we know, and from Fire Pro, man, I like that too. I was wondering if we were even going to bring that up, so you found a way to sneak that in. That's very good. All right, my last question. We talked about James Lipton and the show he used to do, and this was the last question he asked everybody on his show, and I always like the question, so I'm stealing his. And that is, if God does exist, what do you want to hear him say to you when you get to heaven?
That'll do.
Perfect.
Works for me.
That might be the best answer I've heard so far. That'll do. Oh, my goodness. All right. Well, once again, thank you so much for taking time out. Go ahead and plug. Yeah, I know you got a YouTube site, and it'll be linked in the description box below. What is your YouTube channel?
Everything I have should just be under Forsaken710, should take you there.
So that'll be there as well. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, Forsaken710, thank you so much for joining us here inside the Creator Studio. We look forward to what you have in store for the future, and I can't thank you enough for the stuff you've already put out into the community now, because I know I'm using a lot of your stuff in my streams.
Awesome. I'll definitely be watching, and I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. We'll do it again.
Sounds good.
All right, man. Take it easy. Have a great rest of your day, buddy.
You as well.
Thank you.